I don't know what to say about it, but it's just getting crazier by the minute. Definitely, Deliria is the only place to make your stand at this point. I think maybe I should start a nation state.
Yeah, let's do a network state.
Yeah,
but it will be all in the dream. Like we only meet up in the dream, like physically dreaming.
Yeah, true. Although I do know a few of the lunatics who are involved in what was that called again? Where they're going to go live out on the ocean? The transhumanoids.
Yeah. And then too, there was this group, the Peter Thiel group. There was like some kids in there that believed that like Skynet, the AI was sentient, and then they had to like live minimally so like they wouldn't be judged like by the AI.
Yeah, that cult that's been getting some publicity lately. Did they kill somebody or something?
Yeah, they killed like the landlord.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's funny when you get into the details. It's like all this like philosophy, and it just comes down to like petty human stuff.
Kill my landlord. Yeah, it's like the Eddie Murphy routine. Yeah.
Like, oh, we're late on rent. Oh no, fuck him. He doesn't understand the AI. Well, no. Thanks for making time for me. Are you?
Yeah.
It's always. I was kind of reminiscing. I think the first time I reached out to you to talk to you was like in the beginning of the first Trump term, and that seems so quaint now. Like I was like,
yeah,
the good old days.
Yeah, that song President Mussolini makes the planes run on time. The remix was done before Trump actually won his first election. But there's that woman on there saying, "Businessman Donald Trump will win, businessman Donald Trump will win."
I'm very proud of myself.
And I think you have to like do a whole new redux of that. It's like even Mussolini, I guess now because like Elon can't even keep the planes up on the sky.
Yeah. I mean, not making the planes run on time. For sure,
yeah. Oh man, but I was a long time ago. We were. You had that Hubs VR space where it was the NFT song.
Yes, right. I was part of a festival of sorts. Did you see that?
Yeah, the VR festival.
Actually, just tomorrow it's going to. The 360 video is going to be made available.
Nice.
Again, they're going to make an event out of it.
Yes,
yeah.
Cool. But it was in that talk that you brought up the social singularity, and it's kind of interesting. I think too. Still the singularity. True mutations. When I read that, like it got me in that headspace of like. I guess like where the mainstream is now, because even Elon on X said we're on the event horizon of the singularity.
Right. Yeah.
And but I think this social.
I almost wish that was true.
True.
Actually. Yeah.
But the social singularity, I often think that like even culture, as like it was ebbing and flowing before, just kind of like stopped into this pool, and it's just like. Fishing out like retro 80s and like retro cyberpunk and like all these kind of like things that they're just like rehashing, but like there's no like we're in this like weird space, it feels like. But also too, I think recently, because of how crazy and absurd it has gone, it also feels like some kind of bubble has burst, and there's a weird scrambling of like.
Yeah, I mean, there was what I expressed was a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, although it felt like we were in the midst of a tremendous rush of change, there was also on some level we were just stationary.
Yeah.
We were just stuck. Nothing was actually happening. And I think when people started getting excited about AI, I said I was excited about people getting excited about it. I
Yeah.
wasn't really excited about the AI, but I was excited about the sense that there was something edgy
Hmm.
that was causing excitement, even though it doesn't function all that well. But I mean, it certainly is adequate for creating massive cultural confusion in terms of not being able to tell the real from the fraudulent in in all in all mediated contexts.
Hmm.
And I think people are probably already starting to be suspicious of the people they see on the street, whether they might not be what Philip K. Dick called skin jobs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Only instead of being alien invasion, it would be an AI invasion, perhaps fostered by other intelligences, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think there's a line I wrote it down in the Degens and friends, um, just screaming into the apocalyptic void, too desperate to even get paranoid. But like the privileged do seem to be privileged enough to get paranoid. I feel like myself, I'm too desperate to get paranoid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe post Luigi,
Uh-huh.
the ruling class is to be more cautious
Yeah.
and get more bodyguards and yeah, definitely put their guards up. I mean, that's. I mean, if Luigi had really been a conscious, I mean, when I first saw
Hmm.
what this guy had done, I thought maybe this guy was like a really conscious, like left wing guerrilla
Hmm.
warrior, and that he had really picked his target very carefully, and he had picked his timing very carefully. I'm not advocating
Yeah.
necessarily anything here, but just observing. But then, as I think about it, no, that they would have had to have done a lot of representative of the ruling class at once.
Yeah.
Because now they've got their guards up. So any strategy
Yeah.
that would revolve around intimidating the super rich and to taking a different look on how they're approaching things has been made more complex by the fact that people at that level have reached a point in time where they can be very well defended against any attacks against themselves or
Well,
family members or
yeah.
that kind of thing.
It was kind of interesting. So I mess around with the large language models. I even think using AI in this marketing way has both, like what you were saying, the excitement captures the imagination, but is really, a marketing tool to like create this buzz around this kind of product. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think,
use it. I
yeah,
use it a lot actually, and
yeah,
and the music. It's in the album, the Smarter Kings of Deliria. There's lots of AI in
yeah.
there.
I think it's good, like if you know how to use it. But I think that trick of even calling it the AI and not the large language model, because even when
Right.
I'm like dealing with the large language model, it has this tendency to like tell you a conclusion or like an answer and go, look,
Right.
I told it straight out, look, I'm not coming to you for an answer. I'm using you as a tool for research. I don't need you to tell me what to think. And so like stop like, because there's a model, and I'm always trying to break it, with my poetic language and like
Yeah.
using different logic, because there's a logic that's already embedded in it. and when I was talking about like Elon and then like comparing it with like William S. Burroughs and his concept of control and addiction, you know, I constantly be like, hey, you're giving, like, I want to, you know, explore the symphony of the ebb and flows, and all you're giving me are high notes and none of the low notes. Like, what kind of bullshit is this? And then,
Right.
and then, like, it's kind of funny because you do this and it learns from your output and it wants to like please you. So
That's true. Yeah.
so
I've
when
noticed
you
that,
kind
yeah.
of like confront it of like, hey, you're doing this or you're doing that. I even have talked to it in binary and be like, you're giving me 1, I want 0. And I'm like, you know, 0 is about the golden unfolding of mind. I'm constantly trying to get it to understand, you know, Allen Ginsberg, but it has yet. Once it does that, then maybe I start calling it AI and it'll freak me out.
I mean, it will claim to understand Allen
Yeah.
Ginsberg. It'll give you a rap about
Yeah.
how that, you know, in a very linear way
Wait.
is reasonably accurate. Yeah, actually, I mean, Musk's LLM was actually the least censored one up until he decided to make sure they don't contradict anything that Trump
Yeah.
said.
And see, that's the funny thing. You know, I think what is interesting and what I like about your writing and this whole my own development and discovery of my own thinking and mind, you know, via Robert Anton Wilson to some of your work, is, you know, how squishy and maybe things are. Because, you know, from the instant output, you're like, oh man, this is like an assassin that's taking out the CEO. And then you wait a little while, you dig in, and you're like, oh man, like even the guy that tried to take out, or whatever, the Ukrainian sympathizer that was like a Trump supporter, and he says, I voted for Trump, so I think it's my sworn duty to take him out. And you're like, his ideas were so confused.
I know. I mean, there's who is the woman who wrote Doppelganger?
Yeah, Klein.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Naomi Klein, right? I mean, she has a term in that book that she uses, which I'm sure is used by other people, diagonalist, and it's this confusing political tendency of people who have both left-wing and right-wing attitudes, who are easily influenced by conspiracy theory, you know, have the populism of Steve Bannon, you know, and I think, I mean, Luigi, it turned out, is a diagonalist. He was influenced by the so-called manosphere. You know, had anxiety about masculinity going on in there, and then anger at the ruling class going on in there. And I think it's very important not to reject those people if if we're going to win a civil war. We need a wide girth of characters to be engaged. Now, I think what the Trump people are doing now is they're creating as many crises as they possibly can at once.
Yeah.
Probably even at the level of
They're going meta of what Stalin said, is like, you know, a few deaths are, you know, a tragedy.
Yeah.
Like a million is a statistic, so a few tragedies, you know, it make headlines. Oh, 1,000 of them, just a statistic, just the weather. But that's kind of how we are with natural disasters, you know. Like I'm here in California, and we just half of our city just burned down, and we're just going along as normal.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I think they need to get as many disasters, as many. Anyway.
I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It seems like, you know, the more justification of like, okay, this is why we have to like take control, and like this thing too. That's what I was getting at with when I was talking to one of the large language models, was this whole thing about like, because, you know, on the surface, from the top level looking down, which these language models are programmed, Yeah, Musk, he's an innovator, giving the space for moving humanity forward, and that's just all his talking points. But I go, look, when look at the lens of addiction and power and control, like he doesn't face any of the consequences for him manipulating the market. You know, even from my small perspective of being in the crypto market, I seen him pump and dump, and then just uh, like just kill people. And like
Right.
even like Trump's meme coin, there's like it cratered, and like I forgot whatever the money that he made, but that meant that 800,000 wallets lost
Yeah,
money. Yeah,
yeah. A bunch of the people got
got
basically
rugged.
rug
Yeah.
pulled. Yeah. So I mean, they need to create as many constitutional crises as
Hmm.
possible. I mean, taking down. I'm no great sympathizer with our three-letter agencies, but
Yeah.
taking down the main people who are dealing with the potential for terrorist acts in the United States and the FBI and the CIA, I like intentionally letting the guard down, I think, so they can get their Reichstag fire au natural rather than having
Yeah.
to conjure one up themselves. I think that's all intentional, and yeah, they need to get all that done as fast as possible before the poor white people in the South and the Midwest and the veterans feel the effects
Effects.
of their economic stuff, because what we need is for those people to turn the guns around, and if they can get to a crisis that enough people believe in and declare martial law or create the equivalent of martial law, and then they've kind of got it sewn up, which they probably do anyway. But I think that's why there's among aside from flooding the zone,
So
as
yeah.
Bannon always talks about, I think there's the intention of exploding everything as fast
Yeah.
as possible.
And that's the kind of thing too. Is like when I saw the Trump Gaza thing, I like weird stuff. I make weird stuff.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
was
The
just
vacation thing.
yeah,
That's pretty.
I was
That's
just
pretty
like,
amazing.
I was like, I mean, even puts to shame that last video we did with live free or have your hair or dye your hair blue. I was
Now
just
your hair
like,
blue.
oh man, I can't compete with their shitty weirdness.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just, but it's like, I don't know. It's like this Dada phase they're in. I don't
yeah,
know, like this
yeah.
absurdity for absurdity's sake. But I think that's the thing. It's like distraction for distraction, so
Yeah. I mean,
that they secure. Like he's securing his bag in the sense that he's getting all the data. Oh yeah, now I'm primed to get all these contracts. We've even seen it where he
yeah,
takes his name off of the contracts, and it's just like, okay, pay attention to how much of a buffoon Trump is. Why he has his little hacker get into all the data, and then like all of a sudden, oh, I should get the contract for putting the government on LLMs. Oh
yeah.
yes.
I mean, they know what they're doing. I mean,
Yeah,
Trump, has an intuitive
that's true.
grasp of it. Musk tripping out on ketamine and seeing that end of things. There's that guy from Russia who does
Okay.
postmodern theory. I can't remember his name right now. I mean, wrote
Yarvish
he
or no?
yeah
Yeah.
he wrote about Trump and psychedelics. They're conscious of
Yeah.
following an Operation Mindfuck type of playbook. Yeah,
Totally. But
yeah.
this brings us to me. I've skimmed through the book before, but now I read. I was reading your book about counterculture through the ages, and like
Mm.
this weird ebb and flow. Even though that it's kind of hard to see from our vantage point, like a fish in water. But looking back over the horizons and the ebbs and flow, there's always been this tension, right? It's always been this mixed bag. It's always later the song comes out, but in the midst of it, it was always kind of up for grabs.
Yeah, mostly confuses the mainstream and then gets embraced by the mainstream, and then it moves on to the next
Yeah.
epoch, the next period of human culture in which you know a culture starts to exist again that one can be counter to, but it's always I mean it's a parasitic relationship between what is the culture grasped by those with power and those in the majority and those who are sort of freaking freely on the edges of it. It's always it's never a complete separation. It's always a dance of
Hmm.
relationships. Yeah.
And this is the interesting thing because when I was reading about the Prometheus portion, which was good, but like I often poetically tell my friends, "Oh, I stole fire from the gods," and how I mean that is like when I go and I learn something from using one of these like free things, like the large language models. Oh,
All right.
I figured out how to make it like code music.
Yeah, yeah. Make it do what you want. I
What?
mean,
Yeah.
that was the original hacker hacker idea was to not just advance the technology, but to pervert the technology to your own creative impulses.
Yeah.
Not the creative impulse of to rip everybody off, but
No.
just to rip a few people off, to rip the appropriate people off. Right? I mean, hacker culture, as I wrote about on Mindplex,
Hmm.
in some sense, comes out of the Yippies, comes out of Steal This Book.
Yeah. Yeah.
The original phone freaks, the original newsletters for the phone freaks were Yippie newsletters, actually, nominally published by Abby Hoffman himself. So I tried to meme Steal This Singularity quite a while ago, and but that didn't go anywhere because people don't really know. Not very many people know the Steal This
Book. Oh
formula.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit old. I mean, it's definitely a '60s kind of thing, but I think it would make a good game. So I think
Yeah.
somebody should turn it into a game. You
Oh,
know,
really? I could do that. I could make a prompt script where you're navigating still this singularity.
oh yeah, I think there could be some great. Have the DMT assassins
Oh yeah.
Hassan I Sirius and the DMT
Listen,
assassins.
you.
So I mean, there's a number of tropes
Oh,
we could
totally.
weave into a Steal This Singularity
Right.
game that
But
might
I.
might
That's
get through
yeah.
to the kiddies.
But that's essentially like the thing, which is kind of interesting about like we're talking about like this mixed bag of things, and I was reading about the Taoists and going beyond, and I've always liked to play with William S. Burroughs' Language is a Virus from Outer Space, and then even
Right.
Peter P Genesis
Randall Wilson.
was no Genesis was about how where DNA is an alien virus sent from outer space to prison us previously immortal beings.
Right.
And
Right. He wanted to cut up. He wanted to
cut
cut
up
up
the DNA.
the dictates of DNA by
Yeah,
cutting up the body,
but
by altering the body. It's an amazing experiment. Did you see that film about him? It's a
yeah,
brilliant film.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah. But I
Mm.
think too, like I one of the first things I did with the large language models was to like, oh, you're kind of like a cut up machine, or you're like a remix thing, and like I keep on playing with this idea about a glitch is the only gospel, and I think
Mm.
like that was like something interesting that I developed in my own practice of doing work or whatever is Burroughs was mentioning about the Nagal art, like kind of this like Toltec dreaming where like You know, you're always kind of looking for that thing that kind of like shines to you, and you don't really. And it's better not to fully understand. Just like play with it, and then like later, you're like, okay, that's what makes sense. That's like seriously most of my process with like images. Like I just like get in a groove one day and just like mess with stuff, and then like later I hear something, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's why I did it. Okay, cool. And then that's what I'm doing. But I think the stuff about
everybody's
cut-ups,
working with sigils basically, but then like cutting them up and messing with them, making them move.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is and I think what is like some of this weird battle that I've been doing recently. I don't know if you've seen a little bit of it, and unironically, I was once again playing around with ideas like this. My own weird practice of like the beats, kind of go stream of consciousness and cut that up and then remix it and mutate it. And the idea was the Dream Meme Team Supreme, but I like kept on playing with it because I just like how it sounded. But when I collapsed it, I didn't even notice this, but I was doing stuff with the large language model, and then it made it shortened it, and it was DMT. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh yeah.
It was hallucinating, as they say. That's such a strange language that people have accepted around LLMs that they hallucinate because they're imputing an experience to this thing that only does language. I wonder what Burroughs would think of that.
I know.
We are made of language. Up to a point. That's something Burroughs said. I think something Terence McKenna used to say, that we're constructed of language.
Yeah, I think that, but too, in Burroughs was talking about like silence is the preferred state, and and that going back, I kind of go back to like. What Ginsberg was saying about like one of his sayings was disembodied poetics is the golden unfolding of mind, and and that you're like, okay, what does that mean? And but I think some of it is about what those Taoists were talking about, is like deconstructing the language to see what is. I mean, this is kind of my own practice with this one poem I did, but it's like reconnecting those, like how you feel about that word, especially when you like, this is, I think, the only important thing about like trying to create your own content or work or whatever, however you want to label it, is that like you forge that word, and then that becomes something that you have a personal relationship within yourself. And so like people could use that word however they want, but you're like, oh, I know how that word is to me in my own personal relationship to that word. So like when I talk about Allen Ginsberg with the large language model, I'm like, Chat GPT, give me to your coders. I got to teach them about the golden unfolding of mind.
Yeah.
And I just say that in like, and this is like, I think the constant battle of there's that place of like this weird play that a lot of whatever, counterculture or people on the edge or whatever that we like to play with. And it's always control who wants to be like, no, you can't play with those words. Don't cut up that thing. Don't do that. And like the LML is like kind of flattens it beforehand.
Yeah.
It gives you, well, at least in the beginning, it gives you like this, like you're in school and it's going to teach you this and it's going to give you a structure. And then you're like,
I mean, one of the first problems I ran into in trying to get my lyrics recited by an AI was that they were actually censored at first.
Yeah.
You had to look around to find one that
you could say like an F word or whatever,
that would say shit or fuck or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's just even dealing with it at that level. But it's moved on from there.
But I think that is like something, I constantly play with and I think about. And I guess I know that you were really influenced by the beats too early on. I remember seeing a video about you. I think you were reading a Ginsberg poem, and
I did a song about
Oh, okay.
Ginsberg, like a
Yeah, that's
lyric
that's
that
what it was.
some people put some jazz to. It was about
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was about meeting Allen Ginsberg and him being rude, actually, which happened to me every time I tried to meet
You're
him.
here.
And, yeah, I mean, it's one of the funny things with the countercultural legends
Yeah.
that Leary and Burroughs were nice and Kesey and Ginsberg were rude. It's kind of the opposite of the way most
Persona,
people
right? Yeah.
think of it. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Although Krasner and Wavy Gravy were groovy, and so they lived up to their
Reputation.
reputations.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I guess that I'm just curious now of your interactions with Burroughs and different things like that, of how he influenced you, or what you took from some of that.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, God, I discovered all these people pretty at a pretty young
Young age,
age
huh?
because my mom put me onto the beats. My
Oh yeah.
dad put me onto the existentialists
Oh
and
nice.
had me read Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. And then my mom came along and maybe to her regret because they were both very much against drugs, but for some reason she saw what my interests were and told me about Ginsberg and Kerouac and Burroughs. I don't think she knew anything about
About them.
Burroughs. She knew Kerouac, she knew that.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I went off and read all those people right away. With Burroughs, in my late teens, I had all the cut up books. I had them
Okay.
on
Yeah.
my toilet, and when I was high on weed or on a combination of speed and weed,
Yeah.
I would dip into the books at any point. I would just
Yeah.
crank it
Yeah.
open and read anything that was there, and I would find it intriguing and enlightening. But I didn't realize it was comedic until I
Oh.
heard him read live. And
Yeah.
that was the thing about Burroughs that uh, people have to get, and I think a lot of people started to get in the 70s when he became more of a public figure, is that he was stand up. He
Yeah.
was a stand up comedian. Those were routines,
Yeah.
as he called them, and I mean he was hilarious. So I moved out from upstate New York to Berkeley in the 1980s. Burroughs was signing books at a bookstore in Berkeley, and I went there with my old beat up copies of his old books, and he was signing a new book, which I didn't have money for. But I was at the end of the line, and after everybody else disappeared, I walked up to him, and for some reason, he zoomed right in on me, and he said, "I'm not going to attempt to do the Burroughs."
Yeah.
Once at a Kathy Acker reading, I did a perfect Burroughs voice. I can never recuperate it again. I don't know how I managed to do it. So I'm not even going to attempt. But he zoomed right in on me, and he said, "Oh, you must come to my reading tonight in San Francisco. There's going to be a brain machine there that
Oh.
you're going to find really interesting." And I mean, we hadn't said anything. I
Yeah.
wasn't
It's like,
wearing
how did you?
anything.
How did you know?
I wasn't wearing anything that would have identified me as
Yeah.
somebody interested in that kind of tech meets consciousness stuff.
Yeah.
I just landed in Berkeley. I hadn't done anything in publishing that would have indicated that. I did decide later on that he was also flirting with me
Okay.
because I was a cute young boy with a baby face. Uh, but nonetheless, he zoomed right in on that, and to my eternal shame, I didn't have much money, and I didn't go to his
Oh.
appearance in San Francisco that night.
So
Uh,
you didn't see the brain machine.
yeah, I was satisfied with getting my copy of, I think it was Nova Express,
Press. Okay.
which
Cool.
really has become, if not my favorite, one of my favorites. There's some great video
Hmm.
made to readings of the huge clusters of Nova
Okay.
Express, including The Intolerable Kid, which was mixed into a mixtape by a friend of mine,
Nice.
uh, which right at the front of the mixtape was Burroughs reading The Intolerable Kid, which went directly into a memo from Turner by Mick Jagger and then Andy Warhol by David Bowie, which freaked out some people I was tripping with in the mid '80s. They thought that was pretty absurd.
Oh no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Uh, I think one of the things that I've been recently, or I kind of pulled to, and I didn't know that much, but I was digging into his Pook story and him.
Oh yeah. I checked out some of the video you
Yeah, because he has all
had
these
the internet.
good lectures still up on the the Naropa Disembodied Poetics audio library on Archive.
Right.
So I go there sometimes and see some of his lectures or whatever. But when he read the Pook one, and in it, it's what do you call it? The richest man, and he wants to find immortality, and he goes down
Yeah,
and reads the old text. And this is a classic story throughout.
it's very contemporary.
Yeah,
Isn't that? Yeah, yeah,
masters of time and
yeah,
space. Yeah. And then doesn't understand, the nature of the bargain.
yeah, yeah. Brilliant work. Brilliant work.
And I think part of what that is for better or worse, a lot of us who've walked this less traveled path maybe have had our own dalliance with struggles with addiction and control. I recently did this one where it goes I'm in your mainframe, you're smoking cocaine and everybody's going insane. And
Okay.
that thing, because I used to often like my uncle, he used to, like, I would smoke weed and he would smoke crack.
Oh yeah.
And then he'll chastise me for like smoking weed. I'm like, dude, I think you're smoking crack right now. Are you serious? And it's like, you just have like this illusion of control. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
And then, but like, this whole like battle that I had in my own mind, but like that becomes like this thing, I think I always found like these people more interesting or weird that would like be like, oh, smoking weed makes you dumb, but like then like get violently drunk or whatever. And I used to get violently drunk, and nothing against that, but like that schism of like, no, weed's bad, but like now it's totally different. But back then it was like this like weird culture thing. Like every now and then, I'll be in a backyard party and I'm like smoking weed, and then they'll be like, oh, you smoke weed, you must be like a bum. And,
All right.
and I'm like, okay, whatever. But like like that belligerence.
I mean, the thing
control
about
has,
the
yeah.
thing about stimulants. I mean, they are smart drugs until
Yeah.
you crash,
Yeah.
and you can imprint memory and sort of an intense involvement with knowledge while
Yeah.
high on stimulants. Although I don't find cocaine to be very good in that. I
Yeah.
mean, methamphetamine is better than
Okay.
cocaine when it comes
'Cause of that.
to
Well, yeah, the
being
writing.
sharp.
Yeah.
But cocaine gives you the illusion of
Yeah.
being sharp combined with the power tweaks. Yeah.
Well, that goes into Philip K. Dick and like his writing and how interestingly weird it is, and like
Yeah, I mean, you
yeah.
can get great work done on stimulants.
But I think
Yeah.
that space of what we were talking about earlier, where you're believing that other people are cyborgs or something, or like
Right.
not real. And
Yeah.
it's that over like thinking, that over modeling, that over like racing to like figure out every little building block that makes this and that and then I mean, I've been there too, pushing yourself just for, I don't know,
Let,
whatever reasons.
let me
Yeah.
hype my own song on the
Hell yeah.
album Speed and
Speed and
Weed.
Weed, yep.
How I wish I could still do Speed and Weed paranoid listening to Let It Bleed. So,
Long letters to J.G. Ballard and Chuck Manson. Kidnapped my shadow and held it for ransom.
embedded in there is a desire actually to attain a certain kind of paranoid state that is exciting and
Yeah.
intriguing and
That
exulting.
well, I think this is something Burroughs too. What was he saying about? He has a famous quote about being paranoid is like the only sanity you can have in this culture, or something like that.
Right. I think Pynchon had something
Something like
along
that.
those lines
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And I think this is like something. Oh my god.
If you're not
Yeah.
paranoid, you don't know what they're
So
doing. I
yeah.
think that was Pynchon.
And this is
Yeah.
like something too of like being on the internet, like I both feel and again it gives me great sorrow when I like just even recently there's a crypto trader that like apparently killed himself live streaming on X because he got rug pulled and
Wow.
he was doing like Russian roulette, and it's just
Wow.
like this because I'm aware of like all this like crazy stuff that happens on the internet, and I'm cautious myself, but at the same time I'm just like like this not having that. I think this is what the Taoist is like, that kind of like not letting that nihilism like take over or control that wildness or whatever, because I don't know, like a lot of the stuff that I like to play with or whatever, or found space in, and then just kind of like what too when you're going through the history is just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
the horror, and I think it was kind of funny if you get to hear there's a rant by what's that comedian Bill Burr about Elon Musk, and he was like,
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah.
yeah, and he was basically saying,
It's like, are you fucking nuts?
yeah,
just
he was
like putting it right
yeah,
out there.
and
Just
instead
like-
of facing himself, because we all been there, we have a void in ourselves, and I experienced it on psychedelics. Is like you either face it or you turn into a Nazi.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Either like,
Look, it sounded like you were starting to reference the Jens.
yeah, the DJ
film.
song.
Yeah.
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 That is a interesting, as someone who's kind of in the space and have observed this space for a while. It's both interesting. What did you get out of that interview and that film?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing about desperate people, consciously desperate people, with an edge of prankster-ish playfulness
Yeah.
and nihilism, trying to get in on casino capitalism. It's not something you would have predicted when writing about counterculture in the
Yeah.
60s or 70s. Yet the guys who are making the film refer to it as a counterculture. But I mean, it's a counterculture within capitalism that just recognizes, screaming in apocalypse's void. It's, the only thing left for these people, particular people who in some cases call themselves degens or relate to a culture of degens, actually creating crypto coins and hoping that, like the wealthy, that their money will make money. I mean, making money is, central to capitalism now. That's at the top tier. There's nothing. There's nothing else.
Well,
There's no production.
Well, this goes into the one of your songs in your album about the world is flat. Yes, the world is flat.
Right.
Run by the same entity hacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think kind of for me was interesting about Luigi, was that this was a kid that, for all, like, from my perspective, privileged.
From wealthy family.
Yeah, I had a lot of opportunities that, like, a lot of other people, kind of look to. Like, I would assume like some of these desperate people are looking for in this casino capitalism to get that kind of like, not authenticity, but like respect or notoriety. Like, okay, look, I got money too. Like, I could be like Donald Trump, You know, like
Right,
everything,
right.
all my bad behavior is okay as long as I get that bag, I secure that bag, and then look at me, I could make a AI video where ballet dancers have beards on, and
Uh, yeah. Everybody gets to play.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
everybody.
crazy.
It's a crazy situation. But I was also kind of funny because I was reading your book, and then you kind of start off brag with that what is it, the Bo Diddley line. I walked.
Oh, I walk 47 miles of barbed wire. I drink ayahuasca just to watch the news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that
I
was
fuck
one.
Ted Nugent with his own gun is my favorite one. Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
gotta get it out there, man.
gotta
I gotta
get
get that album
gotta get the
out
album
there.
out. So now back. Let's go to your album. What's going on with that one? Is going to be fully released and.
Yeah, sometime in March.
Okay.
The musician Pizza T, definitely has his heart set on having it released before a live show.
Okay.
Sometime around the 21st, 22nd of March. So
Nice.
it should be out before then. I'm not sure exactly what context yet it'll come out in. I mean, somebody's going to try to pitch it to record companies, but I think we're going to get it out before that happens. I'm not sure what the economics and politics of record companies coming along and being willing to put out something that's already available, but I think that exists now. I mean, it has to exist because everything is so random anyway. Nobody makes any money from recorded music, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So it's more about being able to get it reviewed.
Yeah.
The possibility
Get it
of
in
getting
circulation.
possibility of getting a record, an indie label behind it.
Nice.
But sometime in mid-March, the Smarter Kings of Deliria. I'm thinking, Gulf of Deliria. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe we can set up a nation state in the Gulf of Deliria. Get some of those crazy.
Oh, I know what we do. We're gonna co-op the big old plastic island. We're gonna
I'm
We're gonna
trying
hook
to
it up
remember
to
what's the
sea
name of it.
turtles and put it.
Yeah, that's it. The sea idiots. Yeah. I know some of those people. Yeah. I mean, if they don't mind me turning it into a joke, very, very much. What do they call it? Seasteading.
Seasteading, yes.
Joe Quirk, who is very involved in transhumanism and seasteading, used to write the humor column for me when I was editing H Plus magazine.
Okay,
So he kind of appreciates my yippie sense of humor, even though we're probably both on different ends of the political spectrum at this point. But I am very much engaged with people who are like way out on the far right fringe as well. I mean, it just when you've been in freak culture for as long as I've been, it just tends to happen.
Yeah.
Some of your best collaborations. I mean, I never worked with Boyd Rice, but yeah. There's a confession to end the interview.
And the interview on that. That's a good place to end. Thank you for your time, and I'll start the recording next.
Get your money with nothing, and your clicks for free. Get your money with nothing, and your clicks for free. Get your money with nothing, and your clicks for free.